Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Today is episode 5 of the Spin Out TBR challenge. This is basically a challenge on my channel where I spin a wheel full of prompts to get books off my physical TBR. If I don't like the book, it's going to get unhauled. That's why it's going to be called the Spin Out TBR. So basically, I am coming into this episode with high hopes. I just got a 5-star at the end of the last episode. I'm very excited to keep that running. I am hopeful that I can keep my reading at a certain pace. So hopefully I'm not getting too many bad books that are not doing well off my shelves, but I would also like to make room on my shelves for releases that are coming at the end of the year that I don't currently have room for. So if I can get books off, that's fine. If I can read good books, fantastic. Let's get the wheel up to do our first spin to see what our first book is of this video. Okay, here is the wheel of prompts that we've been seeing in the last episodes. I haven't added anything since the end of the last episode because I just ended the last episode 2 days ago. I'm hoping to do well. I'm hoping for good vibes. Please, please, please give us good vibes. Let's spin the wheel. Blue cover. We almost had dragons. That would have been so good. Okay, blue cover. Let's see what I have for a blue cover. I'm not going to lie to you. I have a lot of blue books. So I got them all off my shelf and I'm going to choose some. Let's see what I narrowed this down to. Okay, so I've narrowed it down to 4 books. That was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And also I realized that I didn't actually grab every single blue book off my shelf. So that stack wasn't even all of them. No wonder I made a prompt for it. So we have 4 books. Each of them have their own reason to be here. This one is here because I just finished The Dark Lord's Guide to Dating. It was very much inspirational vibes from this. I feel like it was very much the same sort of thing. The 4th book for this is coming out this year. I really do need to read this one before I even want to buy the 4th book because I'm not allowing myself to buy books this year until I'm up to date in the series. It's a new thing I'm trying. We'll see if it works. So this one's definitely a contender. I am hopeful for this one as well to be a nice, light, funny, hilarious, chaotic read. This one is on here because I really need to continue the series and I would love to read this and then just finish the series. This is the 2nd book out of 4. And then if I liked the rest of this series, like as much as I liked the 1st book, because it was such a good book, I feel that then I can move on to the new series that she's writing. I haven't bought it yet because I want to finish this one first. This one's very blue as well, as you can see, covered in blue. I think this one's a good contender as well to keep up my streak of good books maybe. This one is on here because the sequel's already out. I haven't bought the sequel, again, because I'm waiting. I do need to read this book to establish whether this author is for me or whether I want to continue these books at all. And if I don't, it comes off the shelf anyway. I don't have any reason why it wouldn't be good, but you never know. You never know. So this is up here because I really should get to it. And the last book is purely because we almost rolled dragons. And I think that if I read this book and don't like it, or it's less than the 1st book, or it's on par with the 1st book, I think I'll unhaul both books, even though I read the 1st book and was like, yeah, it's okay, it's good. I think if this one doesn't go better, I think I will end up unhauling both of the books. Again, it has dragons in it, dragon shifters to be specific, so it's a lot more of what I'm wanting in a book as well. Hopefully it's not too cringe. The 1st one was bordering on too cringe. And I think that it's short enough that it's not going to annoy me, even if it is cringe, I reckon. It's quite thin of a book. So, out of all of those, now that I've shown them to you, I think that I'm going to take out of contention Accomplice to the Villain. I think that there's a time and a place for this. As much as the next book is coming out this year and I can't buy it until I read this one, I don't think this one's a right now book for me. The next book I'm taking out of contention is Ren in the Holy Library. I just don't feel an urge to read this right now, so therefore it is not a right now book. Between these two, based purely on the fact that I'm more like the unhaul one than the other, I'm going to choose this one. Because then if I don't like it, That's making room on my shelves as well as reading a book on my TBR. So I think that this one's a good contender. And this one might even come up at some point later on in the video. Who knows? So I'm reading this one and I'll get back to you when I'm into it a little bit. This is the current state that I'm in, is going to be marshmallow. I fear that for winter, I'm going to be a marshmallow most of the time through these videos because this just is comfy and warm. So I have just started, a couple of days after the last clip you saw, A Scar in the Bone by Sophie Jordan. Now, this series started with A Fire in the Sky, and I had a look and realized that I had rated this 4 stars last year when I read it. I think I read it last year. I hope I didn't, because that's a very generous rating of mine for that book. For a book that I don't have very fond memories of. That book is basically following Tamsin, and she's the royal whipping girl. So when the princesses do something wrong, to punish them, she gets the punishment. Anyway, this commander comes in, and he basically, for his protection that he's been doing for this kingdom, he's basically requesting that they give him one of the princesses as a wife. And so they very stealthily make him believe that she is in fact a princess, because technically she is adopted by them. And they marry her off to him with like something covering her face, so he doesn't know who it is until it's consummated, and then it's too late. And then so she's in turn married off to him, and we're in a world with like magical creatures that have gone extinct. Dragons, they've gone extinct. Now, I said to myself I would get to, as soon as I started this, I was like, but I said to myself I'd get to at least reading part 1. I made it halfway there. I fear that this just isn't for me anymore. I've literally gotten to chapter 3. The first book finished very abruptly. It cut off as if I was missing information. This book comes in a year later, and I still feel like I'm missing information. I just don't know what it is. I think the writing's not capturing me. I think that I'm just not interested in the story anymore, maybe. I think that maybe I'm not invested enough to care where it goes from here. I've predicted one thing at least already in 30 pages. Actually, I predicted 2 things that I guarantee is going to happen if I flick through the end, which I did for one of those things, and I did in fact find out that that was true, but I feel like that's obvious from the start. I don't know, I think I'm DNFing this one. I think that if I put any more effort into it, I'm just going to annoy myself, I'm going to put myself in a book slump, and that's not what I want. This actually means that this will probably be unhauled from my bookshelves as well as the first book. Again, I don't have very many fond memories of reading the first book, so I don't know why I gave it a 4 star, but that's the rating I gave it at the time. So I'm putting this one down, and I think that we need to choose the next book. I did and whether, because I only got through, what was it, I got through 41 pages of this book. I was and ahhing whether I should just pick another blue book. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep in the back of my mind that I can choose a blue book, but I'm going to spin again. I do think that a lot of the blue books that I have on my shelf are ones that are on my 26 to read in 2026. So I'm going to keep that in the back of my mind, and maybe I can incorporate the next prompt with a blue book as well. So let me get up the wheel so we can spin that again. Okay, so here's the wheel again. Now, I am hoping to spin a really good book. I've started this month off so well, and it's about time that I get a good reading month. It's been a while. So let me just spin the wheel to see what we've got, and hopefully it matches up with a blue book cover as well. We will see. Less than 500 pages. Okay, let me see what I've got for that, and if I can keep it with a blue book, I think I will. So out of all the books on my bookshelf with blue covers, there were only 2 below 500 pages that are also on my 26 to read in 2026. And it's these 2. Now, I have sat here for 30 minutes before turning the camera back on, deliberating. And I think I'm going to read this one because I'm scared of this one. I think I'm a bit more intimidated by this one right now. So there's less pressure on this one for me. And also, if I like this one, there's 3 other books on my shelves. If I dislike this one, in my head, I'm not unhauling all 4 books because they follow different people, which means that they could end up having different enjoyments for me. Unless I hate the writing altogether, which could happen. But I want to read this one because this has been on my bookshelf longer than this one. And also there's less at stake with this one, whereas this one, I know I love this series, and as weird as it sounds that I'm not choosing this one right now because I love the series, this one has less stakes against it. It's less intimidating. And yeah, that's all I've got. So I'm going to read this one and I'll see you in a moment when I've started it. I thought while I'm crocheting, I might update you guys on my thoughts of The North Wind by Alexandria Warwick. I've sat it beside me. I have no idea if you can see that. I hope you can. I have thoughts on this book, and it has taken me a lot of thinking on wondering whether I should DNF this book or continue. And I think I will continue because I do own the other 3 books in the series. And I think that for my sanity, I probably need to actually finish this book to establish whether I like the writing or whether it's just the main character that I do not like. So essentially, this is a book where we're in a village and they've got this protective ward around the village, around a forest, that essentially keeps these creatures out, these really grotesque, dangerous creatures that come from essentially the underworld, I think. And every couple of decades, the North Wind, who is an immortal being, comes in and chooses a woman to be his wife to use her blood for these wards. Well, that's what I'm gathering at least. And he has come to select a woman, and 7 of them drew short straws, and one of them is our main character's sister. Her sister gets chosen, and she basically drugs her sister, and she goes in her place. She disguises herself until it's too late for the North Wind to back out, sort of thing. So, I don't like this main character. She bugs the hell out of me. The writing is great. The writing is doing well. I'm not having any trouble with the writing at all. The main character is my main problem with this book. Now, understand me fully when I say that this book could have been avoided completely. The whole book would have been avoided by the main character just shutting her mouth, just not saying anything. The whole reason her sister gets chosen is because of her big mouth, because she couldn't shut her mouth. She just assumed her sister was going to get chosen, so she just, I guess, talked back. They could have gotten out of this. I just wanted her to shut her goddamn mouth. We get to a point in this book where she's complaining the whole time. Like, I understand complaining. You're in a situation you don't want to be in. You did put yourself in the situation, but you know. And she's complaining a heap. And he's just getting irritated, the North Wind, as you would assume he would. He's been nothing but kind to her once he's taken her. I will say that. He hasn't thrown her in a prison, whatever. And then she has a little hissy fit. And she does get thrown in the prison. And in her next hissy fit, she goes, "It's so unfair, how could you do this to me, blah, blah, blah." And then he goes, "The funny thing is, I wouldn't have chosen your sister if you had said nothing. I would have chosen someone else." And that's basically the whole story, isn't it? And instead of going, "Oh no, it's my fault, how could I have done this to my sister?" she practically just goes, "Nah." Oh my god, she's so annoying. I can't stand this main character. I haven't had this much of a visceral reaction to a character for so long, and especially in a book that I'm genuinely thinking may have a good plot, but she's just irritating the heck out of me. And I honestly think that if she continues to irritate me into like the halfway point of this book, I don't think I can do it anymore. And I don't know if that's even a soft DNF. I think what I'm going to have to do is look up if I need to finish this book in order to read the next books. Because, look, I'm solely just against this character whatsoever. And I'm not having a good time when it comes to her. I've rolled my eyes more times in these 42 pages than I have in the last week. And I just want to smack her head against the wall because she doesn't have a choice in this situation. She's put herself in this situation. She's the reason she's in this situation. She's the sole reason. And I just feel like she's acting too snobby and just, she is the most pick me as the main character that I've ever read. And I don't think I'm enjoying that at all. If she continues to be like this, I think that I'm going to have to put it down. There's no way I can continue this book. And that would be upsetting for the rest of the series. But at the end of the day, if I don't finish this book, if I DNF it, and I find out that I need extra information on the ending to read the second book, I might even just look up a spoiler review or something to see the ending. And then just have it as a DNF. We will see. I will stick it out for a little bit longer and I will let you know how I go with that. But we'll see how much further I can get in this book in the meantime.
So as you can see behind me, I made a stack of the Northwind series and I made a decision last night to actually DNF the first book. And therefore I am making the decision to DNF the whole series because after some research, I just don't think it is for me. And so last night I put it up for sale on Marketplace and it has since sold and someone's about to come pick it up in about 30 minutes. So I'm quickly going to update you. I read one more chapter of The Northwind, and because it's not just the main character now that is annoying me, it's also the world building and the plot holes that are already starting to happen. I think that with warnings from other people that the plot holes continue to get worse and the world building continues to get worse and things are ignored, I think that I'm giving up on the Northwind book itself and therefore I am selling it today. I just don't think that it is for me, and it is one of those things that I bought all the books as they came out and yeah, I just shouldn't have. And I am trying to be better with that this year. And so far I have been better with that this year. So all 4 of these books are coming off my shelves. And I need to pick the next book with the spinner wheel. And it's Mother's Day today. So I probably won't be able to read it straight away as I'm going to spend lunch with my mum and my nana and my grandma. So let me bring up the wheel. Now, as you can see, it's the normal wheel. I'm going to spin for our next prompt for our next book. Hopefully it's not also a DNF. I would like to actually finish a book in this video. Okay, trade paperback. That actually gives me a lot of options. Give me one moment. Okay, so I have picked the book that I'm going to read. Now, if you don't know, a trade paperback in Australia is essentially a paperback that's the same size as a hardcover. So I've picked out a book that my friends have been egging me to actually read. The sequel is coming out in a couple of days, so I think it's a good option to read. As I said, I'm stopping buying books before I finish the series, so by reading this first book, I can establish whether I even want the sequel or not. And that book is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. Now, my friends read this quite a while ago together, and they are very much trying to get me to read it actively. So I think that this should be my next option, and I feel like this will not be a DNF. I feel like this is going to be a good book if I'm trusting their opinion. So I'll see you in a moment when I've read some of this book. Hello.
What are we doing?
It has definitely been a hot minute since I last updated you. It has been 2 weeks. So I got a little bit busy with life and with other work and other things and just crocheting for markets and making sure I had my life right and cleaning and everything. So I have now finished When the Moon Hatched, and it did take me that entire 2 weeks to finish it, and I just didn't have time or any thoughts in my head really to update you. I probably only had something to say when I got to probably 100 pages left, and at that point I was like, well, I may as well just sit here and finish it and put all my thoughts together into one. So this essentially, we're following Rave, and she is an assassin for a rebel group, and she ends up getting captured one way or another, and she is set for a certain type of execution that is quite bad, and she ends up getting saved from this execution by a man who recognizes her from a past life that she can't seem to remember, and that seems to have far more connections than she initially thought. So in this world, you've got things like earth magic, fire magic, water and air, and they're connected to a certain god, and you hear their song and you sing their song to perform the magic. And I thought that was really unique and really interesting to actually read about. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed this world being not what I expected, a unique sort of story that is not just a chop and change of every other fantasy book that I've read recently. And I think that's why I've been having so much trouble reading this year with fantasy, or specifically romantasy, is it's all just the same. It's all, this is done well, people love this, so let's just copy and paste. And I've been getting really bored with that. And in fact, this book was so unique that it actually helped me, gave me a bit of a breath of fresh air. I will admit, I didn't like the main character through a lot of this. She just didn't meld with me at all. It could be that she was a bit too pessimistic all the time, a bit too down in the dumps maybe, but I have read characters like that before and I have enjoyed them and understood them. I think she just wasn't it. I actually think it's while she can't remember and she's refusing to remember that I'm not liking her. I think once she starts to remember, she got a little bit better. I think it was mainly at the start where she was refusing to remember certain things that she was actually not melding with me. I think that's maybe why I wasn't liking her as a character. It was the blatant refusal to even acknowledge certain things that seem so clear. And I can understand that she's trying not to sort of delve into that side of things without spoiling anything. But it's just, it got frustrating sometimes because she constantly would say the same, oh, I can't do that, someone will get hurt, or I can't love someone because they'll get hurt, like stuff like that. As much as this world is unique, and I really love the world, unfortunately she pulled me back a little bit. The writing at the start of this, like the whole book is really lyrically written, it's really poetic and beautiful, The problem I had at the start of this is that it's lyrical writing, but at the start the humour seemed abrasive to that lyrical writing. It seemed like it was out of place in a way, and it made it obvious when things were repeated. Like, for example, the air was rich with the smell of something rich, and I was like, okay. And then there was Rook scratches at the corner of his cell while I hum sitting in the corner. It was just things like that were obvious to me because right before it, something humorous happened, I guess, or I was thrown off guard by something in general. I feel like I notice things like that more when I'm struggling to focus on a book. And the fact that I didn't highlight anything else at the end of that came across like that, I think is because it started to get more interesting and I started to actually care more. At the end of this, I've rated this a 4 stars out of 5. It didn't quite reach a 4.5 or a 5 for me. I think there's a lot of things that it does well, and there's a few things that it doesn't do well enough for me to enjoy it myself. The second book has since come out since I started this, and I will be reading that with my friends who were trying to get me to read this one as well. I'm hoping that that one is a lot better because we may not be contending with the main character not accepting certain things, and I think that is why I disliked her, because she's gone through some stuff and I can understand, but like honestly it just got to a point, and I think it was also because it was slow reading because of lyrical writing, and I don't know, but like I loved every single creature in this, which is typical for me to love creatures more than the main characters. But that's just the way it is. And also, oh my god, get you a man who is so attentive and just notices things. No matter how much you try and hide it, he just notices your pain and he tries to like help you. And like, I understand that a lot of people have said that he is quite forceful with trying to find out things from her. But you have to realize that by that point, he was so frustrated with her lack of communication that the only way to get her to open up was to be a little forceful. And like, oh my god, he just noticed things that she didn't even clock herself sometimes. And I just, god damn, I like that in a man. I like a man that sees things, that notices little subtle things without you having to say something. Like, oh my god. And like, he is just the perfect man for her, but also he deserves better at the moment. So that's my thoughts. It might not have been very concise thoughts. I had a lot of up in the air thoughts throughout it. Like I said, when I was reading it, I just couldn't grasp what my thoughts were, and everything was coming back negative rather than positive, because I was really enjoying the world that was in this book. But yeah. And I feel like I haven't said everything about the book, because if I'm being honest, I think I need to look further into what would be spoilers for this book. So I apologize for not having a full amount of information on this book, but just know it is a truly beautiful book, and it is the sort of book that even if you're struggling at the start, stick by it, because it does get better. If it's not better for you by the halfway point, if it's not building for you by then put it down. But I highly recommend this book. This is such a fun, beautiful, magical read, and I genuinely cannot wait for the second one. So that is in fact all the books that I'm going to read in this video. I'm sorry that this might be a bit of a shorter one. I don't know, because I haven't started editing it yet. I believe before I started filming this, I had 35 minutes of footage to go through. And if I'm being honest, I have in this video taken a fair chunk out of my physical TBR. So obviously I DNF'd the first 2 books in this video. And out of those first 2 books, I have unhauled these 2, which is the one I DNF'd, and the previous book, which wasn't off my physical TBR, because I have read it, but I've decided to unhaul both. And the North Winds, and the South Wind, and the East Wind, and the West Wind have all been sold. I sold it to someone who really is going to appreciate it a lot more than I did, and I sold it for a pretty good price actually. She was very keen to get it. So that has taken 4 books off my physical TBR on top of this one that I did previously. I started off this video with 125 books on my physical TBR, and it may not seem like much after I've told you all the ones I've taken off my physical TBR, but I now have 124 books on my physical TBR because I was gifted a book set, and so now that's been added to my physical TBR. I have read the first 2 books in that set, so it's not too bad. And I have hauled a different book as well in that. So it's just, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like as big of a gap as I would have liked, but it is in fact still in the positive. So I can't wait for the next videos and what books we're going to read in those ones. But I will leave this one here, and I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to go like, subscribe, everything that you know how to do. I'd love to build a little book community over here where we just talk about books constantly and just love them too. Whether we love or hate books, I'd love to just talk about them. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, a wonderful rest of your month, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.